help me welcome Lisa Centers to the stage. Lisa is the CEO of Jet Centers Aviation, a private aviation expert, CEO, and founder of Jet Centers. With more than 27 years experience in the aviation industry, her clients depend on her advice and honesty in deals ranging from buying entire aircraft to structuring complex management contracts to finding charter services when needed. She is frequently quoted in national media and is a regular keynote speaker worldwide on aviation and entrepreneurship. Welcome, Lisa. Director with Merrill Lynch Wealth Management. He spent the last 22 years at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, where he considers himself an intrapreneur. He's the founder of a 9-person boutique within the company called Singh & Associates, where Tom and his team specialize in pre-exit planning for business owners looking to sell their company in the next 12 to 36 months. Tom, stage is yours.
Thank you so much. We're going to go into business, we're going to talk about life, we're going to talk about inspiration, we're going to talk about resilience. So it's going to be a little bit of a departure from the heavy M&A conversations that we've been having. But I think we can entertain you here. So Lisa, we're going to work backwards here. Okay? I'd like to work backwards. We're going to start with today. Tell us a little bit more about your company, what you do.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me, to Smart Business Dealmakers, and to you, Tom. Really great. Our kids go to school together, so it's fantastic, and they swim together too. I'm just really excited to be here to tell my story. I hope I can be impactful and make everyone laugh and maybe leave everybody with a little blessing to go away with today. My business is called Jet Centers Aviation, after my last name, Lisa Centers. And I've been in the business a very long time. We help people basically do 3 things: buy and sell aircraft, manage aircraft, and charter aircraft. Making money at a really young age, and I loved to make money. I pretty much always had 2 jobs, and anyone that knows me now knows I'm always running 24/7, doing a lot of different things. But I was very young. I was probably around 13 or 14 when I figured out, I kind of wanted to work for myself and didn't want to give my money to somebody else. I didn't always work for myself, but I knew from a very young age that, sometimes I'm not really all that employable either, because I don't like to take directions so much. So that's a real thing. Yeah.
So now you eventually wound up as net zero, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that. And do we need to explain what net zero is for the Gen Zs in here?
Probably, yeah. So a long time ago, again, youngest of 5, I always came home with these ideas, and I told my dad I was going to sell advertising on the internet, and he was like, "That's great, honey, but nobody's going to buy advertising on the internet." So I worked for one of the first internet service providers, which was Net Zero, and I was very young. I was the director of sales. It was back in the day when we slept in our offices and worked 24/7, but I loved it, and we took it public.
So tell us a little bit about that, right? You're an M&A crowd here.
Well,
what was that like?
That was completely thrilling, and overnight, at a very young age, I was worth about $5 million, and we went out and had a big party. I locked my kitty cat out of the apartment because I lived in New York, and but by the time I could vest, it was back to like 3 cents or something. So don't act like you have $5 million. That was a tough lesson, but I learned it.
Yeah. So what part of the deal did you work on? I mean, going through that, and what did you learn through that process?
Don't spend money you don't have.
No, that's great. So now, in addition to your company, you do a lot of philanthropy. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so yes, I do a lot of philanthropy. And in fact, there's some people here in the room. I was at Hobby Lobby and got to meet the Hobby Lobby people, which if you don't know their story, they started like $600 to distribute crosses and frames to people that didn't know Jesus. And they're now worth $34 billion. And they give 99% of their earnings away. They kept 1% of the company. So the guy's really impressive. But I guess I just have always done philanthropy because I feel like I just have been really blessed. And my son has a website called Help with Joy. You guys can check it out. It's amazing. He raises money every year.
What's it for?
Well, he's 13, and the first year he did it,
I mean, that's a big deal for a 13-year-old to be doing
he
that,
raised
right?
a lot of money for kids that didn't have parents, and then one year he raised money for kids that didn't get birthday presents. Last year he did Work Done Charities, which if you don't know, I'm on the board of directors of Work Done Charities, and Warwick was 18 when he lost his mom, and they never had a home. Most people don't know 78% of NFL players don't grow up in a home that the family owns. So he's on like 257 homes that he's given the deposit for. And so my son decided to do that. He raised $1,700 on his 12th birthday. And
He's going to come work with me to raise some capital.
Yeah. And last year he did Make-A-Wish, so I'm not sure what he's doing this year.
Wow.
But
So how did you get involved with Work Done's charity?
So I got involved with Work Done's charity because, I'm in the jet world, so I did meet a lot of celebrities and athletes, and our paths crossed. And when he was 17, and he didn't have a home, but he had 4 younger siblings, and his mom was a cop, and she went to work, and she was shot. And he had to go identify the body, and the only way he could tell it was her was because of her pearl earrings that she always wore. And, we just bonded over that story because, as you know, part of my story is I had a tragedy at a young age also. And, I just fell in love with the man, frankly. So we just became really, really good friends. And I've worked, as an advisor to him. I've worked in different, avenues for him. But now I'm on his board of directors. And he's having a big golf event on June 9th at the Dunwoody Country Club. It's a celebrity golf outing. See me later if you want a pairing. Tom's going to be there.
I'll be there.
And
More Tom Singh fatigue.
Right. Raising money. But he's just an amazing philanthropic man. Yeah, just love him.
Yes. So talk about how you got into aviation. Okay. I mean, you had this corporate job. How did you wind up in this space?
Okay, so I have to go way back to, when I was in high school. So my first job out of college, youngest of 5, didn't have a lot of money, loved to talk on the phone, but my priority as the youngest was really not there. So I never got the phone, right? So I heard about these people that started to sell phones that you could carry around. So I went there one summer and I got a job selling a portable phone. It was like 20 pounds. It was a big black box. And I went home and I was like, Dad, I'm going to be able to talk on the phone. I'm going to sell these. And he was like, what is that? And I was like, it's a phone. And he's like, that's great, honey, but nobody's going to carry a phone. So I sold a lot of phones and I got a free phone that summer. But so again, I just was always an entrepreneur. I was always very successful in sales. So my mom's best friend, she couldn't get a job at People Express. Does anybody remember People Express? So I'm definitely dating myself there.
Yeah.
It was, one of the first, like $57 you could go to Europe and back on. It was like really inexpensive. And my mom's best friend's daughter, who I was always compared to my whole life, could not get a job there. I was like, well, I can get a job there. I can get the job. And I got the job and I loved it. But as a woman, you could be a customer service manager, but really you were a flight attendant. And so I hated being a flight attendant, but I loved flying. I loved being in the air, and I loved being just around jets and travel. And, my mind always wondered where everybody was going and what they were doing. And I love people. So fast forward to a lot of sales jobs, head of Net Zero, took that public, did all that. And everything was going along great. Until one day I had a really tragic thing happen to me. My sister, who was my best friend, was killed when I was 33. So I was like, I don't know, I kind of lost my mind. And I was very successful, making a lot of money, but super unhappy. So I didn't tell anybody, but I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York and I auditioned and I got in. So my parents again were like, oh my God. Like what, so I was like crawling around on stage, acting like a cat and like doing all this crazy stuff. But it was really good for the grieving process. And I did that for 2 years. And I started dreaming about, well, what am I going to do with my life? Like really, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? I have to move on. I have to live without my sister, which was really difficult. But believe it or not, I started going to a dream therapist, and I dreamed. I was. Do I tell the story?
No, you go. No, keep going. TMI is good here.
So I had a dream, and in my dream, I stole this big fat diamond, and I went to jail. And everybody in my life, very conservative Christian family, everybody in my life, my parents, my siblings, everybody I knew, came into my dream and said, "You ruined your life. You ruined your life. You ruined your life. You ruined your life. You stole this diamond. You ruined your life." So I went to the dream therapist and I said, "What does this mean? What do I do?" And she said, "You need to go steal your diamond." And I go, "What does that mean?" She goes, "Go live your life for you. Don't live your life for anybody. You keep trying to please your conservative parents and do everything that, you're told to do. And you need to go, fly." So I was like, "I'm going to sell jets." So once again, my dad was like, "Nobody flies around on jets, honey." I'm like, "Well, no one we know is doing, because we don't have any money, but people do fly around on jets." So I started studying, and I made these little note cards, and I taught myself a lot about jets. I ended up writing a letter to a guy that was on Wall Street. I told him my idea. Back then, literally, guys, we didn't have computers. It was a book, and it was called Air Charter Guide. And it would tell you where all the jets were that you could charter. And we would go through the Air Charter Guide, and we would get prices for people. But I didn't have any clients when I first started. I just started cold calling people. I made up a brochure, and I started cold calling people, and it was a charter broker company, which ended up becoming very successful. And then I was recruited away after years to Marquis Jet, and then I went on to work for NetJets as a senior vice president for 10 years. So my dad, who loved Warren Buffett, was like, "Oh, I guess it wasn't a bad idea after all." So I did that for 10 years, and then I started my own company in 2011.
What was it like working in the corporate world for a company like NetJets or Marquis Jet? What was that like? I don't know much about the aviation industry, so maybe you could sort of peel back the onion a little bit on that.
So, aviation has become a lot more transparent. So back in the day, people didn't, know how much to charge or what to charge or anything. So it was really fun. It was a really, really fun ride. I've been doing it for probably longer than I said. I don't want to take myself that terribly on it. But, it was thrilling because we went to every, as a much younger single person, I'm married and mom now, but to go to every cool event, to go to, the Masters 14 years in a row, to go to the Super Bowl all the time, to go to NetJets Poker with Bill Gates, and, every cool thing you could possibly imagine, you had access to. So that was really fun. And it was growing, right? It was a really super exciting, sexy industry. And I was really good at the sales, so I always won the awards and went away. Right. And it was fantastic, really. I loved having my pedigree be there. Yeah.
So how do you pivot from working at NetJets to saying, "I'm going to go ahead and start my own company doing this"?
Well,
Did you have to go back to Dad?
No, actually, my dad. I'm trying to figure out what year my dad died, but my mom and dad are both not with me anymore. They're in heaven. But it was easy because I became a mom, and there's no way I could fly around and not have my own schedule and not know when I was coming home or anything. And remember, I had done it before.
Right.
So the hard part I did when I was cold calling for 2 years straight, no one would speak to me. So I already had a book of business, and it was right after 2008, and nobody wanted to pay the most anymore. So I can save people a lot of money off the NetJets pricing. And people still use NetJets, but they will use me also, because they'll use NetJets for their business, and then they'll use me. And I had a client right away that wanted to buy a plane, so I couldn't sell planes when I was at NetJets. That wasn't our program. I could either sell you a card or a share. That's it. I couldn't help you manage. I couldn't sell your plane. I've done interior decorating on planes. I couldn't do, a full range, which I can do now. So my first, client wanted to buy a plane, so I helped him buy the plane and managed it for him out of PDK, and it was a very easy transition, actually.
Really? Okay. So when was the moment where you realized, okay, I made it?
I don't know when that will be.
Well, when you started the company, right? There had to be a point where someone, in the back of your mind, you're questioning yourself, okay, or maybe you didn't question yourself that, hey, maybe this is kind of crazy. What am I doing here? Was there ever a point where you're like, okay, I think this is going to work?
Yeah, I think I was like 3 months in, and my husband was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. I was like, it's only 3 months. I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay. But I don't know that I've ever thought, oh, I've made it, or I don't think I'll ever stop striving or doing, or I can't imagine that day anyway.
What is your? Do you have a CFO?
I do have a CFO. I have a brilliant CFO. I could not have started my company without my CFO, actually, because it's a totally different skill set, right? So I'm a dreamer, and I always have the big ideas, and then you need a CFO who's going to kind of put you in your place and tell you what reality is. And I could not have started my business without my CFO.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so what you're not sharing is that's your husband.
My husband is a brilliant CFO. He runs a company called My CFO Plan. He's a fractional CFO person, and he does try to quit on me every couple of months, but I don't let him, and I could not have started my company without him, for sure.
Yeah, well, by the way, we did get on video that the CFO puts you in your place sometimes, so we do have that on tape, just to say that. So, what are some principles that you believe in that guide your career and your personal journey?
Wow. Okay. Well, so everybody has mentors. I love to mentor people, and I have been mentored by a lot of people. And Charlie Munger, who recently passed away, who obviously knew through NetJets, used to say, "It's better to know what you don't know than to be brilliant." And I think that's for me, that has been a cornerstone for me, because I'm always learning and I'm always growing. And there's a lot that I didn't know, but I always know who to go to know. And I have such a vast network in this industry, and I have so many friends in this industry that will help me, and deals get done with other people, right? So you can't do a deal by yourself. If you're going to broker a plane, you go to the brokers that you like, and all the brokers work together. So he also had another quote about integrity, and that's all you have is your integrity and your reputation. And I think that's probably too why I've been so successful, because forever, I don't work on the deal, I work with the person. So it's not about the deal, it's about the relationship with the person.
So there had to be a point where you sort of changed your idea towards, because right now, I think, if I'm mistaken, you only take on new clients by referral or introduction only, correct? I mean,
correct.
You don't market these things. So there had to be a point where you were obviously going out and getting clients. Was there a point where you did make that change consciously, or was that just subconscious?
Yes, I did make that change consciously, because when I worked at NetJets and MarquisJet, of course, I had to take any client that I was given, or that lead flow came in. And then when I started my own company, I had so many of my customers follow me. I would say the majority of my customers did some type of transaction with me over the last 10 years that I had at NetJets. And I have built such a big relationship with most of them. I do believe that people resonate with other people that they resonate with, and like attracts like. So some of the everybody has them, I guess, but the clients that are not as great to work with fell off the wayside. And then when you start a company and you're in my industry, people will not be loyal and want to shop you, and they'll say, oh, I got you on Google. If you'll notice, like, I'm not really, you can Google my name and a lot of articles will come up, but if you Google what I do, I'm not the first, because I don't want someone calling me that's going to shop $300 on their flight. And you're not going to go to the cheapest heart surgeon.
Well, I was going to say, but you probably deal with some egos, maybe, or maybe people on a management team of people that maybe have egos. I mean, how does that play out? Or is it still just about the relationships?
I like to joke that I'm the marriage counselor in the management team, because you're going to have the plane owner, you're going to have the managers, and so I'm kind of the middle person in the management. But my degree is in industrial psychology and business, so I like to think that I can handle those egos and those personalities. And I also really love people, so I like to figure out what makes each different person tick. And if you really get to know people, it's also hard not to like them.
Right. No, that's great. Tell us a little bit, myself and maybe some people in the audience may not know a ton about private aviation. What are some myths that you think that are out there that you'd like to dispel?
Oh, I have a great one on that. So I have great sales training at NetJets, and NetJets is the most important way to fly, and it's very safe. And most planes, well, most people don't know, but planes are a lot safer than driving. So, when I first started, and people would always say to me, oh, we're going to have two planes because we don't want mom and dad to be on the same plane, or we don't want the board of directors to be on the same plane. And I'd say, okay, well, how are you getting to the airport? And they're like, oh, we're driving together. Which never made any sense to me. So it's very safe. When I was at NetJets, we were trained to train against charters. So I've been, had a charter brokerage, went to NetJets, started a charter brokerage again. And one of the brilliant sales people told us, when you have to compete against charter, if the charter is going to charge, $20,000 and you have to charge $50,000, just go, is that going to be safe? But yeah, it's safe.
So it's safe. So it's safer than driving a car, right? I always hear that. Okay. And when there's turbulence, I shouldn't be worried because I am a chicken when it flies.
It's just like a wave.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. So what advice would you give CEOs in the audience if they're faced with adversity, maybe some HR issues? There's a thing called tariffs and things happening right now in our economy. What are some advice that you would give to the folks in the audience?
Well, on the tariffs, I think that'll kind of even out. Everybody's kind of panicking about that, but I think that'll even out. I think, we all know, again, another Charlie Munger thing. So Charlie Munger lost his 7-year-old child. Then he had surgery and was blind in one eye, and then he lost his wife. And he said, you might not like it, and you might have to cry for a while, but you just have to keep going.
Yeah, no, that's a great quote for sure. Very inspirational. Let me ask you right now, what's the hardest thing about your business right now that you're facing?
Well, constantly, again, you have to have a CFO because it's very regulated. The industry is very regulated, and a lot of the things are constantly changing. So right now, people are on a hold pattern, and they're talking about the bonus depreciation coming back. So people are waiting to buy a plane for the bonus to see what's going to happen with that. One of the things that people probably wouldn't have thought of is in COVID, when COVID happened and nobody was flying, that was very it was very daunting because everybody was just in bed sucking their thumb going, oh my gosh, everyone's going to die. And then everybody started flying again. So that was terrific, but people started buying so many planes, there was no inventory. It was very similar to cars. And so people were overpaying for planes, not doing inspections. So there's a lot of kind of garbage that has to be cleaned up, and the inventory is still low. And then you have a lot of, companies pop up like Wheels Up and stuff that oversold by so much that, they would just leave their customers standing on the tarmac because there wasn't enough planes. So people didn't realize that the inventory is still suffering.
Gotcha.
And pilots, and we don't have enough pilots.
You don't have enough pilots?
No.
Great. Luckily, it's still safe. It's still safe, so it's all good. I want to get back to a little bit of your personal story. Because this is a story that you share with me, and I think it's really impactful. Talk to us a little bit how you met Ed, your husband.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Okay, so
I'm putting you on the spot.
I'll try to make it small though. But okay, so my mom.
We have 15 minutes. Take your time.
My mom was dying, and we were really close. And again, I was flying around, on NetJets, being single, having a ball. But I wasn't married, and I didn't have any kids or anything, and my mom, that's all she ever wanted for me was to have a good, Christian Irish man, because of course she's from Ireland. So the hospice nurse said, you have to tell her that she can cross over, and I did, and she did right away. And I got on a plane, and I came back down to Atlanta. I was living in New York City, and I was on a date with somebody, and I met this guy named Ed McDermott, and I don't know why, but I liked him right away. I was trying to like my date, but I didn't really like him. I just liked this random guy that I met across the table. And I don't know why I don't know. It was just very strange because I never really liked anyone. I had been single forever. I mean, I was not young at this point in my journey. And so I kept running into him and I kept trying to flirt with him and he really wasn't giving me the time of day, which just probably made the challenge all that much greater. And so for me, because I'm an entrepreneur and I don't, I like to change a no into a yes, a maybe still a yes, a no is a yes. But so finally, after I kind of inappropriately grabbed him one night to say goodbye and kissed him a little bit weirdly. And then he never called me. He never texted me. He never, nothing. So finally he called me on my mother's birthday and I was like, yeah, we can go out sometime because I was my ego was definitely bruised and then I was trying to play it cool. And I played it so cool that I called him and said, I'm flying back in. I'm coming to the airport. Will you pick me up? And he was like, yeah, sure. So we went out, fell madly in love, and then went home to meet my dad. And I was crying because I was like, I can't believe, we knew that we were meant to be together. And I said, I can't believe you'll never meet my mom because she would love you. And he said, don't worry, honey, she knows we're together. And my dad started talking about this memorial bench that he got my mom outside of the hospital she worked at, which was in Overlook Hospital, which was in Summit, New Jersey. And I met Ed at One Midtown Kitchen. So Ed's like, that's weird. Why are you getting a memorial bench at Overlook Hospital? And my dad's like, because that's where Lisa's mom worked her whole life. And Ed's like, that's weird because that's where my mom worked. And my dad's like, that's weird, what unit? And Ed said, my mom was head of coronary care. My dad literally practically started crying and said, that was Kathy, my mom's dear friend and boss. And Ed was like, I knew your mom in high school. And so they did meet. And when I went in to meet my mother-in-law for the first time, I had wrapped a statue for my mother when I was in 9th grade. And it was this little yadro with, I have it now back, but I wrapped it for my mom's friend. And my mom was all worried about whether she was going to like it or not because it was expensive for my mom. It was Yadro. And I was like, Mom, she'll love it, and I wrapped it for her. And lo and behold, it was on my future mother-in-law's shelf. I wrapped it in 9th grade. So I got it back. It's in my house now.
Well, thank you for sharing. It's such a great story. I just
not anything to do with business.
I was going to say.
Hopefully inspiring. Anyway.
I'm glad we shared that in front of 300 people.
Yeah,
that's why I did that. So I want to bring it back a little bit to business here is, being a woman in a male-dominated industry. Talk about having to navigate your way through that. Maybe some of the challenges you faced and any advice you might give people that may be navigating those types of issues as well.
Sure. Well, again, because of how I grew up, things have changed a lot. But my option as far as being in aviation, because that's what I knew I wanted to do, was to be a flight attendant. That was my option. So definitely do not cut off your options. Very exciting that we didn't talk about is I am getting right now GSA approval to do government work. And the reason they came after me is because I'm a woman and a minority. And so that's super exciting. So I'll be one of 12 people, 12 companies that have that distinction. So that's really exciting. So I just, you have to, sorry, men, I kind of a little bit be smarter and better. And, you definitely cannot, you just kind of have to really just stick to business.
Tell me what your dad told you about typing.
Oh,
that was a cool story you just told me.
Okay, so, well, because somebody asked me recently, 2 days ago, who may or may not be in the room, to send them a calendar invite for this, to remind them to come hear me speak or something. And I was like, no, your secretary can do that or your wife can do that or you can figure out how to do that. But I'm not going to send you a calendar invite to tell you where to go. And I thought it was so bizarre, but no words. But when a long time ago, women learned how to type, but the men didn't have to typing in junior high and high school. And my dad was like, honey, do not learn how to type. Because if you learn how to type, you're going to get stuck typing. So I did think that was good advice.
That's very good advice. I didn't think about that.
And I do not have great admin skills. Ask my husband.
So what's next for you and your company, right? As we start wrapping up here a little bit, where do you see your company going, and where do you see the aviation business going as well?
Well, like I said, I'm really excited about the GSA approval. That's going to be really interesting.
Wait, what is GSA approval? Sorry.
So GSA approval means that I'll be one of like 12 companies that the government will come to. So I don't have to solicit their business. I don't have to fill out an RFP. It's about a year-long project, which I'm doing right now.
Okay.
So once that's approved, the the administration will call me for their aviation needs, whether they be large aircrafts or small aircrafts, and anything you can think of. It could be anything that you can think of.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, and I don't even know exactly what that's going to entail. I mean, truthfully, when they came to me, I said no like 3 or 4 times because I don't know how much work it's going to be, and I wasn't at that point in my career that I really wanted to take on extra work. And I'm doing a lot of other philanthropic things and things like that. So, but that's exciting. And as far as aviation goes, I don't know, people keep trying to find like the Uber of aviation or the shared experience as far as small jets go. Nobody's been successful to do
Electric
that.
airplanes, do you think we'll ever see that?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know the physics behind it, so it seems like that would be pretty difficult to get towards.
I think there'll be Jetsons at some point, yeah.
Yeah, okay. What about, so I want to go back to the TED Talk, right? What was the genesis behind that? How did you get involved? And, your talk was specifically about resiliency and everything. So tell us a little bit how that came about.
Okay, so I was somebody, the good news about being a female in aviation, because there are so few CEO females in aviation, is I attract a lot of attention as far as free publicity and press and things like that go. So they actually called me and asked me, I guess somebody had found out about my story and asked me if I wanted to do it. And I said, sure. And people may or may not know, they hire a coach for you and they train you with a coach.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For months for free, which is really great. And I did practice a lot for that. And it was a really great experience, yeah.
Well, there's no coaching here, so you've done a great job. But as we wrap up, like I said, is there anything any words of wisdom, anything you impart maybe from your TED Talk about resiliency? Because you talk a lot about trying to start a business and having doors slammed in front of you. Anything, as we wrap up here, what you might give some advice?
Well, a lot of famous speakers and motivational speakers talk about manifestation. And in fact, you'll probably meet Marcus Allen next week, who told my son, who my son always goes there to the charity event too. He said to my son, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And my son said, "An NFL videographer." And Marcus Allen said, "What?" He goes, "An NFL videographer." And he goes, "What did you say?" And he said, "An NFL videographer." And he said, "Yell it, yell it." And so Marcus Allen told him this whole story, which was very inspirational, about how he used to stand in front of the mirror when he was little. And he used to say, "Thank you for my award, and thank you for accepting me into this college." And like he literally had his whole life manifested into the mirror from when he was 10 years old. And he won the Heisman. He said, "Thank you for my Heisman trophy." So he told my son every day that he should stand in front of the mirror and manifest, how he wanted to create his life. And in fact, he's a legend, and he did it. So I think seeing what you want and believing in yourself, because a lot of people are going to tell you, my whole life, that was my TED Talk. Everybody said, "That is such a bad idea." Until I did it and I was successful. And then they were like, "That was a great idea." Everybody told me it was a terrible idea. So, don't listen to the naysayers, because there are going to be a lot of them. And if you don't have any, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yes. That's a great way to end our segment here. Let's give Lisa a round of applause. Appreciate your time.